Hello, Tony Jones here from Q&A, live from Studio 31 in Melbourne, and facing your questions tonight, Stephen Conroy, Louise Adler, Susan Carland, Andrew Bolt and Greg Hunt. Q&A is live, it's in Melbourne, and it's on next. Q&A viewers will know that our guests attract questions on their special areas of influence and expertise. Greenhouse questions for the Climate Minister, economic questions for the Treasurer, but we've never seen anything like the avalanche that Stephen Conroy has generated. Let me show you. Stephen Conroy. That is half of them. We couldn't print them up, we used too much paper.
I'm not sure why we need a mandatory filtering service. I understand that the Howard government put in place a net nanny, and if I understand correctly, only 35,000 families chose to download it. So I'm wondering where the anxiety, the moral panic around what we see, how we choose what we view, and where that comes from and what you're responding to. I mean, frankly, maybe I'm a sort of woman of a certain age, but, you know, all I get is Svetlana from Florida sort of begging me to look at her photos, and I've really failed. Just me. No, and all penis extensions, and, you know,
Well, I think a lot of people are getting very worried about something that hasn't actually been decided or rolled out. I think it's incredible, and it's not as if there's only one right at stake, which is the right to masturbate over photos of children being raped. I mean, that's not the only right at stake here. There's another right, and that's the right to protect children. And I think it all comes down to how does it actually work in practice.
It's funny, the only emails I seem to get is from Nigerian princes trying to give me money, so I guess maybe the filter's not going to do me any favours. I'm actually the mother of two small children, one of whom is a 5-year-old daughter who loves to use the internet. But I have concerns about what seems to be coming out. However, the biggest issue I have is that we don't have a lot of information about it. We're not actually sure what is the criteria that is being used to judge.
I would also put in place the opportunity to help mums and dads with net alerts and other things. Stephen might say not enough took it up, but but having a blanket closure of a very large portion of the internet doesn't appear as if that's going to be effective.
I think, and I think Greg would agree with this, that there is a compelling argument to deal with refused classification material. That's material like websites that promote incest, websites that promote rape, websites that promote child pornography or child abuse. And a lot of people have got confused thinking we've already introduced this. The debate you're seeing over the last few weeks, and in particular the last week or so, is actually about the existing system that's been in place for 9 years. The blacklist has existed for 9 years, and it hasn't destroyed the net, it hasn't caused mass panic. The issue of the leaked blacklist, first of all, the first list that got leaked was not the blacklist. It contained a whole range of material that was not on the blacklist, and people whipped themselves into a lather. Now, I'd like to talk about the dentists, because that's been a good bit of fun this week. Here's what happened. The Russian mob targeted Queensland small businesses last year. And what they did was they identified websites that had blank pages underneath the main page. And what they would do is they would put some material that would be refused classification on that site, on that one page within that site. Then they would spam all of the people who would be interested in looking at this material. And we were advised by international agencies that this is what was happening. And so it was blocked internationally. It was never blocked in Australia. And then it went away. So the dentist that people say, well, how could you possibly block a dentist? Because the Russian mob hacked his site. Well, not his site directly, but they actually entered into using his web address. So I don't actually have a problem with wanting to try and combat the Russian mob putting, and I'm not exaggerating, putting material that will be refused classification and then trying to publicise it worldwide. And to give you an example of the sort of success they can have, they targeted a while ago the Czech astronomy services, and within an hour or two of them sending out their spam, 12 million people had accessed vile child porn that was attached to the Czech astronomy site. So when people want to laugh about how could a dentist end up here or a travel service end up here, there are legitimate reasons why the international authorities who are chasing these organisations, and they move around. So that's the dentist story. It's really as simple as that. Now, the second list which has appeared appears to be closer. I don't actually know what's on the list, but I'm told by officials at ACMA it appears to be closer to the actual legitimate list. Now,
well, can I interrupt once again, because there's a story in the Sydney Morning Herald website today saying that, that a link containing a series of photographs of young boys by Bill Henson is actually on this blacklist. Bill Henson, back in the media for reasons of censorship. Is he on the list?
The Classification Board looked at this website and actually said it's PG. And a technical error inside ACMA, I'm advised, but literally a technical error, included it. But it was actually cleared by the Classification Board, so it shouldn't have been on the list. Now, I've asked ACMA in the last few hours to go through their entire list again to see if there's any other examples of this. And at this stage, and they're piling their way through it overnight, they found this one site that falls into this category where it's been misclassified, not by the Classification Board, but by the ACMA technology that they've been doing.
Can I interrupt you? I feel completely surprised to be sitting here hearing you use the language, a Labor Minister for Communication, using such terminology as blacklists, banned material. I thought that we shared a value in Australia around free speech, around our democratic capacity to see this material and to think about it ourselves. And that all I'm hearing, the last time I heard about blacklists was Joe McCarthy's Senate hearings, and I feel extremely uncomfortable and disturbed that you are actually, with great ease, talking about blacklists. And that you're happy to... Just let me finish, sorry. And that you're really comfortable with secret lists, that people can complain with all of their vested interests and all of their, you know, and lobbying instincts can come to ACMA, complain, and that there's a secret kind of process. So we neither know and have an open discussion about these sites, about the problem, for example, of pedophilia. No, we don't have an open debate. We have a secret process. And then you're going to say, I'm going to manage to control the internet. I'm going to manage what comes into your home. And I think your story about the dentist is a paradigmatic story about how you failed to control it. You failed to control the Russian mob, just like I can't control Svetlana here in the public sphere. I think it's reprehensible, and I think we should argue those ideas in the public sphere.
You told me not to interrupt you,
You're
please.
quite right.
So I'm just trying to establish, should anyone be able to watch and publish and distribute anything at all they like? Anything at all, like, I know, father having sex with his children, Fritzl, the guy in Austria, videos of him having sex with his daughter, anything like that. You think there should be absolutely no barrier? Jihadist material, anything?
Will I answer the question?
I think you better.
And well, my view as a publisher is that we argue those ideas, that there are reprehensible ideas. What I find reprehensible, you don't. What you find unpalatable, I don't. I want to fight you in the public sphere.
So
I want to fight you on... That's absolutely. May 1,000 ideas bloom, and let's contest them, because that's what tells us that our democracy is robust.
Let's hear from the Minister.
The Broadcast Services Act, under which the blacklist works, has got nothing to do with political content. You would have to change the Act. Now, even my harshest critics are not suggesting we're trying to change the Act. What they say is, oh, we're worried about what might happen in the future. But there is no suggestion, there has never been a suggestion, and there will never be a suggestion, as Louise says, from a Labor government that we're going to look at banning political material. This is the existing standards by which current newspapers, current TV shows, current radio shows are judged. There is no change to the criteria. Attempts to suggest that what we have been talking about are about political content are simply misleading. Simply misleading. Mischievously misleading at times.
Susan Carlin, let's hear from you. I mean, you had some concerns earlier on. You've heard the Minister. Is he addressing the concerns in what he's saying?
Well, to an extent, I'd still like to know exactly... So you said, is ACMA the body that will be deciding what is appropriate and what is not? What is permissible to be seen and what is not?
At the moment, there's a combined function between the Classification Board and an ACMA official. Now, given that we might be moving under the policy to a new situation, I've actually been saying in the last few days, I think we need to make sure that people have confidence about the process.